I know they were using drones, right, and flying things to doorsteps. I know they were, talking about that for a while. I believe that's still in some test markets. That's not necessarily my thing. Let me see. This came in off the text line. I was talking about my job, and this person says it would be a travesty to lose radio personalities to AI. What makes a show like yours worth listening to is your stories, personal experiences, and opinions, and, well, your quirkiness. As a matter of fact, I asked somebody, I said, well, how does it work? And they said, it does the same thing you do. What do you mean? And the person asked me, well, how do you prepare the show? Like, I'm curious, like, how does that happen? Well, I'm tethered. And it should be. People are talking about is top of here or then, if at all possible. And the answer to me was, that's what this thing is. Did you honestly think we weren't going to be able to make a machine that can read, process said information, and come up with your opinion? Damn. Come on. You're a bright guy. Not that bright. Right? And it's like, kind of true, right? I think my job is one of the easiest jobs to replace. For sure. Some of you hate the idea and you're like, no. Because you're thinking of being able to tell that it's an AI program that's doing it. Before long, I don't think you'll be able to tell. Look at where we are with some online. Can you tell? The first thing you have to ask on anything you see online now is this real? Is this fake? Is this AI? And again, I'm not the only one, but about 5 years ago, I said in 5 years, you won't be able to believe anything you see or hear on the internet. And by the way, here is already there. There's a George Carlin AI comedy set, an hour long. I played you some of it a couple of months, it was about 2 months ago, I think. His family suing and all of that. And it wasn't great. It wasn't as good as George. But again, now, wait a minute. I've heard pieces of audio of Barack Obama, the former president, saying all kind of stuff I know for sure Barack Obama did not say. They're already warning you how bad some of this stuff is going to be with this election in 2024. So where are we in 2030? Think how fast. Sorry. If I could try to say two things at the same time, think how fast the world has moved forward in the last 5 years. That's where we're at. Doug is a little bit more optimistic on this. And he says this to me a lot when we talk this conversation, and I think a lot of people maybe have this opinion, so I wanted to talk about it. His thing is, you hear all the time about how AI is going to take all of these jobs. His thing is, products being sold back and forth to people is what makes the economy, like that's kind of what builds the economy, and that's kind of what everything. He goes, so who's going to buy all of the products? Which is a decent question. It's not crazy. Well, I'm sure you've heard this saying before. I don't know if I go all the way here, but it's a pretty big saying. You will own nothing. Unbelievable. I mean, the book was great. Movie's fantastic. I love the movie. But when you really think about the casting of that movie, it is insanity. But this, we'll have it down to about 1 or 2 very soon. That's the problem. There are going to be industries wiped off the face of the planet. That is the thing. Also, that question comes from a place of assuming somebody cares about whether or not you have the thing. They don't. They don't. Look at how some of these companies have been acting over the last 10 years. Flat out tell you to your face, they don't want you as a consumer if you don't. Their own customer bases away. It's like an AI commercial the other day in this building. I've heard AI commercials on television already, and so have you. Like I heard. Because now when I hear it, I'm like, I know that voice. That's the voice they use in the dude, I saw this demonstration. I was in this meeting. Like it's already there. It's here. I think it's only going to get worse. But I am negative. I am a pessimist. So you got to weigh that in, right? Dude, this place ain't great and everybody's out to get me. I mean, like literally out of the womb like that. That's who I am as a person. I don't trust you. I don't trust me. I don't trust anybody. Nobody. I don't be trusting people. That's not in the thing. Tim says, I'm a mechanic. I don't see blue collar jobs getting taken as much. Tim, what? You think they're out to erase their own jobs? They're after you. They're after me. Have you seen those robots they got? They can jump 7-foot fences. You don't think it can take a water pump out? I'm sorry, man, but like that's just crazy to me. A computer is running the thing you're fixing. You don't think it can take a spark plug out of a car inside of 5 years? Does that mean every mechanic's going to be out of a job? No. Do I think every truck driver is going to be out of a job? No. But I said it, and people will laugh at this because I'm going into the entertainment field, but like, you ever see those sci-fi movies? You ever see those future dystopian movies? There's 7 people in the whole damn movie. They don't show you traffic on the street. You ain't there. The robot's bringing the food to whoever the hell's sitting there. You're not there. I'm not there. Sydney Sweeney is sitting in there. Leo's sitting in there. We ain't in there. You and I are nowhere in that movie. And it's because, baby, we will be nowhere in the future. 8:45 this morning, I'm going to get you into Sonic Temple. That show starts May 16th. You got a 4-pack. Good for every day of Sonic Temple. About an hour from now, we'll get you into that. We had been talking about driverless semis. Aurora Innovation's a company behind them, one of the companies behind them. They say they'll have trucks ready to go later this year. In about 3-4 years, they look to dominate the highways. It may be a little bit more than 4, although I don't think it'll be that much. Inside of 10, I would bet. Now, I've been wrong on plenty of things in the past. I mean, the movie theater's still alive and well, right? So let's not go crazy, although all the headlines this morning about the movie theaters are not great. Fall Guys falling short. A lot of stuff is. But I was not right about that. The movie theater's still alive and well. So I've been wrong about plenty. I get a lot right. Welcome to speculation. It's a big part of the job and the like. Now, this part is going to be a little scary for some people as we were talking about this. People are like, you can't do it because of how many people are on the road. And, you got to think about the safety and the accidents and the like. And Ryan works in the airline. And he said, I know you're right. Because some airlines are already talking about it. Some of the mock-ups of innovation we've already seen in my field. Which I remember being on the air when I was, like the first time when I was doing afternoons. And I believe it was then. Some of this stuff gets a little murky for me because I kind of mix all 7 shows I've done together now. But like, I remember having the conversation and it said in the info that they were encouraging pilots to take naps during the flight. I remember we went on the air with the very low-hanging fruit of, geez, look how terrible this is going to be. Right? But if you can encourage a pilot to take a nap while in control of a plane, I'm to believe that a driverless semi is a bridge too far? I don't buy it. Now, more traffic on the road than in the air. You'll always hear people say that, you're safer to fly than you are to drive. Yeah, my idiot neighbor gave their kid a brand new car. So yeah, I'm on the road with them. So yes, you're probably right. Not to say that flying is, obviously most people get to their destinations, but if we're moving it into that field, we're already starting to see it there. The highway's going to be the part that they can't get, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. You know, a lot of people are worried, or not worried, but concerned. Like, dude, you're crazy here. Like, without people buying things, money isn't generated today. You know how many industries were standard in your life that you don't have? How many businesses, big names, brands, huge, that people thought could never be taken down? Let me give you this one. Be kind. Please rewind. Remember that? Remember buying your grandma a VHS rewinder? Take that tape out, put it in the rewinder. That way we can put a new tape in the VCR. You don't even miss a second. Entertainment nonstop. You thought you were going to have that forever. I love the 90s. I love the 80s. Those shows on VH1 filled. The whole point of those shows was to show you all the stuff you thought you were going to have in your life forever that you no longer give a damn about or have. I think this is just another version of that. Not everybody always picks up my cue, so I'm being not attacked, but I'm being questioned here about whether or not, like, are you rooting this on? No. I am not rooting this on. I'm terrified. We talked about my job a little, and they said, you know, will it replace you? And I said, yes. It is for sure coming. Absolutely it is. You realize the AI robot, if they chose, would never criticize the company ever. I don't do it every day. I don't nitpick everything. There are times where I'm like, yeah, really? What are we doing here? They don't love that. They don't hate it. They don't threaten to fire you or anything, but they look at it like, come on, do we really need to be doing that? We probably don't. There was probably another piece of audio you could have played. There was probably something else you could have talked about. You didn't have to necessarily do that. That won't happen. People are saying, oh, it can't replace you. It's the interaction with you. You write back, you talk to us, you know, you do all that. You realize social media networks already have AI replies. I have them turned off on my Facebook page, these things. But plenty of stations, I believe Rock 1069 is among them, have an automatic reply that says, thanks for messaging in, blah, 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 blah. To kind of tell you, look, these are being looked at. He may not be reading this. And again, I look at my stuff way more than I look at the station stuff while I'm on there. That would, I don't know why I clarify being on the air. That would be true all day, every day. I look at my stuff. I very rarely look at I look at the radio station as like, that's their thing. And like, I have my own thing. So like, if your primary way of talking to me or yelling at me and telling me how much you don't like what I'm doing is the message box of Rock 1069's Facebook page, I haven't seen it in 3 years. Like, I'm just be honest. I have my own thing. Like, I kind of focus, I police that. But me typing back to you is not the bridge that they cannot cross with AI. You realize they're going to learn. The machine. It will mimic me, whoever. I think guys who are making a lot more money than I do probably got to worry about it before I do, like any other industry. You know what I mean? I make good money for Canton, Ohio. I do not make a lot of broadcasting money. There are differences, which is why I've said, leave me right here. I get to do what I love. I make way more than enough money to survive and live very well in this town. That's all I need. I don't need anything other than that. That's why I worry about this so much, because I got a life I don't really want to let go of. I love my life. Complain about it as I may occasionally. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Like anybody else. But I love my life. Even the days I hate it. Like, this happens all the time in here and you never hear it. Oh, God damn it, I hate this, I want to be done. And then immediately after that, I'll say, no. Stuff out there, you could have it way worse. And I know you guys are listening in the studio, even though you tell us that you're not. Sorry, my bad. Corporate overlords, I love you. That happens all the time in here. Complain as I may, I know I love my life. And that's why I worry about this kind of stuff, not only for me, but for you. A lot of you love your life. You probably don't wake up every day and go, yay, can't wait to go to work today, yay! But I don't do that either. You know what I mean? I love what I do. I don't wake up every day with pom-poms in my hand like, yes, another one. I'd rather lay around in my pajamas and do stuff that I want to do too. So bring on the AI robot so I can do that. I guess is the thing. But like all of these problems we think are the reasons they can't do it are just the problem today on why they can't do it. They are not the thing that will stop it from happening overall. Cavs win Game 7 on their home floor. Brown's got an idea to put a dome in Brook Park. And Scott from waitingfornextyear.com is ready to talk about all of it. So let's do that next on The Stansbury Show.
1069.
Welcome back to the program where I'll rock the bank with you at 9 a.m. Pass out that first $1,000 keyword. We do it every Monday at 8. We talk to the co-founder of waitingfornextyear.com, Scott, who you can find on NY. Scott, my man, how are you this morning?
Cleveland sports.
Not so bad.
Spent most of it losing money on the Derby, carting my kids around, but otherwise it was a good weekend for the Cavs and Guards.
I guess the winning horse at the Derby had Dan in its name. My mom hit me up. She bet that horse. My sister-in-law bet the horse. I did not bet the Derby this year. I just, honestly, it totally escaped my mind. Before we get to Cavs Game 7 and a little Guard, Scott, I actually do want to talk a little Browns. I know people are going to groan, but this was a request by my audience who loves the fact that you're on Mondays at 8, and a few guys reached out and were like, dude, can you ask him what he thinks about the dome idea in Brook Park versus downtown? I'd like to get Scott's opinion on that. Where do you come down on the new Browns facility possibly being in Brook Park and a dome and all of it? What are your opinions on that?
I'm indifferent. I know that makes for great radio, but I think they need a new facility. They clearly are going to be putting money into one versus the other. I think each of it has its pros and cons. I get the whole downtown thing. I do think moving it from downtown would certainly not be great economically for downtown Cleveland. But there's probably a third of the league right now doesn't have their stadiums in the major metropolitan area. Closest of which is probably Buffalo, which has been in a suburb for a very, very long time. And they seem to not have had to skip the beat in terms of fans and tailgating and the atmosphere and everything like that around that stadium. So I get that it's change, and I get that people would have gripes one way or the other. But I'm kind of indifferent, and I just want to see them improve the facility, because I've seen and been in several NFL stadiums that are much, much better than what we get to enjoy on a Sunday. So improving that would be first. Where they put it, I'm fine either way.
Talking to Scott from waitingfornextyear.com, and we do need to talk a little Cavaliers. Friday night they lose Game 6.
What the fuck?
And I got to be honest with you, I did not have a ton of optimism going into Game 7 yesterday. That at 1 o'clock, we got to watch that on ABC. Donovan Mitchell gives you another great game yesterday, 39. Darius Garland, two different players, first half to second, which is great to see. He got a little encouragement from Donovan, arm around him. We're going to be all right. You're going to be fine. Keep shooting. We're going to be fine. And sure enough, he hit what I'll call a big three towards the end of that game. That's good to see the leadership out of Donovan Mitchell there. I'm glad they won. They went out of their way to pull the Orlando Magic in the first series of this NBA playoffs. And I think if you do that and you lose, then a lot of finger pointing is going to go on. But they now move on to Boston. You get Game 1 now Tuesday, I believe, is when that will happen. And to me, Scott, am I crazy here? But it kind of feels like the Cavs are playing with house money now, right?
A little bit, yeah. I don't think anybody's giving them a chance, which is probably, has its perks, right? I mean, everything's been a function of expectations, and the Cavaliers really don't have any at this point.
Right.
I do think you want to see them be competitive. They've beaten Boston already this season. They had that fantastic game on national television in March. It could be hopefully a sign of things to come. But yeah, I mean, given that it took everything they had to get past Orlando in the first, I think I saw Boston's like minus 1,600 or something like that for the series, which is crazy. You know what I mean? So nobody's giving them a shot. Let's see what they can do. I hope it's not a lot of Donovan do this and 4 guys standing around watching like it seemed to be in Game 6. But hopefully they figure out a game plan here on a short turnaround, because it's gonna come quick.
Talking to Scott from winningfornextyear.com. Again, you can find him on X at WFNY Scott. I want to talk a little Evan Mobley, because defensively the kid's great. I mean, he had 5 blocks, I think, in Game 6 and 7. He's been playing a pretty decent defensive game, but I feel like if the Cavs are going to take that next step, if they're going to become one of those real contending teams in the East, he is, over this next offseason, going to have to develop a much stronger offensive part of his game for them to continue to grow, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of fans wanted to see him step up offensively when Jared Allen went out, and that makes a lot of sense. They clearly switched the game plan around, however, to make it very guard-focused when that happened. And you saw Garland and Mitchell being the ones getting into the paint more than anything else, and they were relying on Evan to kind of be that release valve, but focus more defensely, and he did. I mean, Wagner had a terrible game yesterday, and easily their second best player, which was very, very big in getting that to happen. Obviously he had that huge block earlier in the series, which extended the series. So there's a lot of good things to take away, but I do think given where he was drafted, given with the way the team has sort of propped him up as this sort of, the unicorn that, Porzingis never really quite became. I thought you would have wanted to see a little bit more in the way of a consistent offensive game. He's done it in fits and starts. The talent is there. But you have to wonder if they kind of game planned away from it and just leaned on the guards. And it worked for the first round, but they're certainly going to need him, especially if Jared can't tomorrow, to really shoulder a good portion of that offensive load in the paint for the Cavs against the Celtics.
Talking to Scott from winningfornextyear.com. You brought up Jared Allen a few times, so I'm going to ask the question because I saw it all over the place yesterday. Jared, I don't care how bad your ribs hurt. It's Game 7, buddy. You got to lace them up. You got to play. Or do you come down on that?
I'm a little surprised they didn't give it a go. Given that it was Game 7, either they had supreme confidence that they were going to win that game, or his ribs are a lot worse than they were leading to believe with the initial questionable decision a couple games back. I was surprised he didn't go. I'm glad they won without him, but I find it very difficult to believe that they stand much of a chance without him, given, you can't take a guy who should have been an all-star this season out of the starting 5. Okoro had a great game. LeVert had a great game yesterday. I mean, they've
Magic. Nobody plays any defense. It's a defensive league. They've moved everything. Now, the NFL's moved more scoring, the NBA. Well, welcome to television programs, right? But I felt like defense was on full display yesterday, especially in the first half of that game. It was talked about by the broadcast unit constantly during the first half of that game, and it was noticeable. And I felt like, dude, I almost want to see playoff basketball throughout the whole year, right? Like there was a little bit of this, like, dude, defense is fun. Like it can be really good in this sport. Were you surprised by that? Do you think we'll see more of it? Is it only going to be more defensive as the series go on? Where do you come down on defense in the NBA overall?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's been the Cavs. I mean, I know a lot of national people haven't probably gotten to see it, and you could argue a lot of local people.
I was going to say, yeah,
with the way Valleys is. But the hallmark of this team all season has been defense.
Yeah.
When they had that stretch around the All-Star break where they were one of the teams in basketball, the defense was carrying a lot of that, and the offense was just clicking. So the defense came to play over the series. I think was very, very important. I did take a little, opinions are opinions, right? But people calling it boring basketball, I think, is very funny because it is stark contrast to the same people who are complaining about.
In my day, Jordan did this, right? Yeah. I
do think, it's they know that they're not going to be able to just outpace everybody. And I think
make them play your way.
And they need to get by playing strong defense and playing efficient offense. And it was good to see that come. Orlando certainly had their fair share as well. Like they, even those games that Orlando, ended up pulling, boat racing them, on the road. They were playing strong defense as well. So, yeah, good to see. But, yeah, it's good to see at this stretch of the season as well, because you're going to need it against, Jason, Jalen, and the rest of the Celtics here over the next couple weeks.
I appreciate it, man. That's Scott from waitingfornextyear.com. Check the site, waitingfornextyear.com. Find Scott on his X at WFNY Scott, and find him next Monday, 8 o'clock right here on the program. Buddy, have a great week.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Always good to get his opinion on stuff. And, he's a little bit... Everybody was calling it boring basketball yesterday, yet most of the time everybody's telling you how they want more defense brought into the NBA. It was noticeable while watching that game yesterday. And again, the broadcast team could not stop talking about it. Another thing that happened yesterday, not only was it Game 7, it was also the Tom Brady roast. Got a few thoughts on that, so let's give you those next here on Rock 106.9. 9 a.m., I have your first $1,000 Rock the Bank keyword. We'll pass them out all day. Just over a half hour, I get you hooked up with the first one. So last night, Netflix did another live piece of television. They've done a few of these now. Last night, it was live, the roast of Tom Brady. Everybody was using the word live like we just cracked the technology of broadcasting live, but it's not what Netflix is known for. I thought it was an interesting choice to choose to do those live, as Comedy Central had the roasts for a long time, and I believe most of theirs had not been done live. I don't believe the Dean Martin roasts back in the day were done live. I would have to double check that, but if memory serves, I don't believe that they were. So I was kind of surprised by that, but I like it. I kind of like the idea of communal viewing. Last night, 8 o'clock, everybody's there. And now, not everybody. Plenty of you did not watch this last night, and I understand. But I kind of like the live thing. There were moments last night where I felt like, all right, this is why we don't do a lot of these live. Is because some of it was like, all right, we're getting a little loosey-goosey here, and that's fine. I do a live show every day. I understand how it works. You get a little closer to the end of the week, it's like, geez, dude, this guy is off the rails, right? So I can understand. I got a few thoughts, I suppose. I mean, first, we are talking about mostly Boston and the New England Patriots. I get Kevin Hart is a huge star, makes all the sense in the world to be a host, but, I mean, we have a huge comedian from Boston who loves the Patriots and is a diehard sports fan and is easily one of the better insult comics we have today in Bill Burr. I was just kind of shocked that he's not hosting. He wasn't on the dais. I thought that was a little nuts. I thought that was a little crazy. I prefer the Kevin Hart host versus Jeff Ross. I understand why they normally have Jeff do a lot of that. It's kind of his wheelhouse, his comfort zone. He's very much a throwback comic, that style, more a Friars Club kind of guy than some of these other new age podcast type, style comics. So I get it. I will get to Jeff Ross and Tom Brady here in a second. But I'll take Kevin Hart over that, right? So this did happen last night. I believe Jeff was the second person to be doing any roasting, or maybe even the first outside of the guest. And he made a joke about Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, getting the massages in Florida. Remember this? The rub and tug Robert Kraft story? Tom Brady stands up, walks over to the podium, leans into Jeff Ross and says, "Don't effing say that again." To which it came off as tense last night. Like, oof. Man, we're pretty early into this thing. Does this guy not have the skin for this? And then you think to yourself, well, wait a minute. He agreed to be roasted. Robert Kraft did not. I think if you're a part of the Patriots and you were in the building last night, to expect a couple of jokes to come your way, sure. It also felt very much Tom Brady. Team first. Not me. He has a tight relationship with Robert Kraft, always has. The love between them, you can feel it. Robert Kraft has always said, Tommy is like a son to me. And I believe that. Beyond all of that, it did feel a little forced. A little staged, maybe. a little, we know this has to come out. We know it has to be said. We don't want the night to turn into this. So Jeff will say it, Tom will get up, Tom will tell everybody, and then it'll set the tone. You don't do this to Mr. Kraft. That's how it felt to me. It felt a little staged. A lot of people felt like they were trying to mimic the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. I think that's going really far. I think that's reading way too far into it. I think it was about setting the tone. And I think Brady was letting everybody know, roast me all you want, but that guy, let's not do that to that. I didn't necessarily love Kevin in between all the other comics and that kind of stuff, but dude, hosting live events is not easy. I'm not going to go overboard and criticize him. Belichick came pretty close to stealing the night. He was hilarious. He was also very comfortable, and a lot of the other athlete type friends were not. And that was my issue, was like, all right, Jules Edelman, he's doing all right at this. A lot of the other friends and athlete type stuff, like Randy Moss, it was like, dude, what are we doing? Like Nikki Glazer just absolutely murdered this room. I mean, I thought she was easily the best performer of the night last night. I know a lot of guys are going to go with Tony Hinchcliffe, and I can understand it. Nikki Glazer murdered. I mean, she murdered last night. And again, she kind of has a history of this. She had done a lot of those Comedy Central roasts, and that's very much her style, right? That's her thing, one of her things. Again, women aren't funny. Go watch Nikki Glazer from last night. You don't think women are funny? Go watch that. She killed all your favorite comics, including those two big bears who were two big boars in the middle of that thing last night. I mean, it was like, geez, I would have rather Tom and Bert done that solo. I didn't think it was necessarily horrible. We don't got to spend all morning jumping up and down on those two. But Nikki Glazer murdered, and here comes Randy Moss to bring the mood down. I mean, it just didn't work. Like, it just did not work. Belichick was amazing, and I'm not surprised by it. One of the reasons is because for years people have said, you don't understand it. He gives you a little bit of what he wants to give you at the podium and after games, and we're on to Cincinnati and all of this stuff. But in practice, he is hilarious, and that he is a very funny and personable guy. I have no problem believing that when it's business time, it's business time, and when it's not business time, it's time to screw around. And he made a couple of great jokes. That was pretty good overall. I also noticed this. Not once, but twice last night, the word retarded was used. Twice. Very minimal groaning from the audience. As a matter of fact, laughs came from the audience. Another word got used last night. Fag was used last night in that roast. Minimal groaning. Laughing. There's a phrase that's all over the internet over the last couple of months, and people are right about it. We're so back. People are starting to come out of that thing. The worried what you're going to say about me thing. Worried you're going to tackle me thing. Worried that you're going to cancel me thing. You're not allowed to say that thing. Last night was 2.5 hours in an exercise that you absolutely can say the thing. Stop being so funny. That's what I took from last night. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was like, oh my God. When I heard the first one, I was like, oof, man, Netflix, he didn't edit that. I wasn't looking for him to edit it, but I was like, a little shocked by that. And then when I heard the second one, I was like, oh, so this is what we're doing. We're putting out the test balloons. You got to remember, Netflix is who gave you the Dave Chappelle specials when everybody told you that he was no good anymore. They're the one giving you the Shane Gillis show. They're the ones that have said, we're not going to censor our shows. We're not going to be doing this. We're looking for people to push the envelopes. And they're the one doing the Netflix is a joke comedy special for like 2 weeks long, which this was a part of. It kind of feels like a rotating thing out of everybody dance on glass for a little while we're saying these things. That was the big takeaway for me last night. That and women aren't funny, huh? Nikki Glazer, easily the star of the show last night. She absolutely murdered everybody. She put every single one of those comics at the little kid table last night. Welcome back to the Stansbury Show, where Bill Vincent out of Hartville just won his way in the Sonic Temple with a 4-pack of tickets. I don't know if I have those tomorrow or not. We're getting pretty close to show day, so that may be the pair of those I have. I'll have to ask promotions today. They do not have Tuesday's giveaways scheduled as of yet. That's pretty common. So we'll see what happens there. But Bill Vincent won his way into Sonic Temple. Have fun at that, Bill. I would imagine it's going to be one hell of a show, man. Again, you're getting Misfits, the originals there. Pantera, Slipknot, Disturbed, Theory of a Dead Man, P.O.D., Mudvayne, Anthrax, Starset, Royal Blood, Jesus. Clutch and Baroness. Pretty good there. Yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff happening. All right. As a person who has criticized social media almost too often, and God knows I have, one of the things I've said about it is the reason why conversations get so tricky is because when I was growing up, you didn't talk to 75-year-olds. You talked to your grandparents, maybe, and that was when your parents forced you to go. Now everybody talks to one another about everything. That can be good, and it can be bad. We also have the ability to go online, pass out our opinion, and go, hey, I kind of noticed this about life. And I don't want to be real critical on that because, well, I just gave you my job description. And so I don't want to sound like, well, I kind of came up and so like now let me pull the ladder up underneath me so nobody else can do that. Because I don't think that's great. And I don't want to. I have here a piece of audio of a young person in this country who has gone viral while talking about what it was like growing up with their parents who supported them. Yes, financially, but emotionally, by being there for them, taking them back and forth to practices, all of it. This person claims that their parents were doing that not because they're great parents, but because they're narcissistic. Sorry. I think this is one of those things where a little young, yet you're coming into adulthood and you're starting to really think for yourself there, and you notice this and you notice that, and so you think you've come across this great big revelation about what it was like to have your parents. This person claims that being driven back and forth to practice and your parents coming to your games isn't good parenting, it's narcissism.